So I was thinking about the simulation like I do when I get high. And so I'm starting to think about the whole like the people inside the simulation. Like we're all inside the simulation, obviously, right? Now I assume we're all players, but this is where it gets complicated. Like you have the whole what is real, what is not real, everything's just a simulation. So obviously, if this is like the Matrix, it's all just like the movie. I mean, we all have like you have basically players and non-players, right? I guess a non-player is an NPC, right? So you have the non-playing characters, and I guess everybody else is a player. So how does that work in the simulation? If you think about it, it's either like you have random players and random NPCs, or what I was thinking earlier is what if we're all NPCs, or at least that's like how you're born into the system or the game, right? Which is basically what the Matrix is. Like everybody is technically an NPC, right? So you have like Neo wakes up, actually before he wakes up, rather, when he's in like inside the Matrix as Neo and he's doing all these weird fishy things and he's in pursuit of Morpheus and all that, right? So like that's the simulation, that's the Matrix, and he's an NPC still, right? So maybe we are all NPCs inside of the simulation, right? And only when you actually finally wake up do you become a player. So it's not that there are NPCs and players. It's more like everybody is an NPC, right? And so it's like you have to wake up to become the player, and once you actually see the truth of the world, the truth of the reality we live in, that's when you actually become a player. It's like that's why people say, "Oh, like this person needs to wake up." When you see the reality of it and all that stuff. So the Matrix, the simulation, same thing, right? Is just like the game. You're inside a game and you're an NPC. You don't even know you're an NPC. You don't know anything. You're just going along, and it's like I guess the players that are already evolved are the ones who are kind of teaching the younger NPCs. And I don't even think it has to do with age. I mean, you can have retarded people who are NPCs at the age of like 18, but also like 58 or 68 or 88, right? Or maybe that's how it is. So maybe not everybody can switch from NPC to player. So you have the people, the regular people, the actual players, and then you have like the computer NPCs that are still. It's like this birthing transition. You're born into this world as a human, so-called human, which obviously is just a symbol. You're just a player in a video game, right? Like that's how you enter the video game, because there had to be an entrance. They can't just beam you into this planet because that would freak everyone out. That just doesn't make sense. It doesn't fall within the confines of this reality, right? So the Matrix, aka simulation. I mean, you have a reality. Well, whatever created this reality, however it was actually created, like this initial simulation that was created, you have to have entrance and exit. So you have like people who come into this world through birth. You're a baby, but you're an NPC. You're represented as an NPC. And then as you get older and wiser and you learn and you play the game, you eventually wake up, and that's when you become an actual player. You do a transition, and maybe that's a symbol to it. That makes sense. Actually, look at all these trans things we have. Everything is all trans issues, people transitioning, and the media and the schools and all this crazy bullshit about the trans movement and all that. Well, maybe that's just a symbolization of how people are transitioning. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. When you trans, it's like you're waking up. You're becoming that person who is now awake inside the Matrix. So we're all NPCs, we're born, and then we slowly evolve into players. And then obviously you have the exit at the very end, and then that's death, obviously, but not actual death, because in the Matrix or aka simulation, there's no technical death per se. You're just a program. You're just this thing living inside a simulation. Either your program just gets recycled or you get basically reincarnated as a different NPC character. Maybe that's what that is. And then, oh, it's so complex. But I mean, the whole NPC thing is making more and more sense, at least just for this fun little theory of mine. So yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like look at children too. Like that's a really messed up thing when you see like kids who get either hurt or like killed or something, especially younger ages, and it's something that's like random and uncontrollable. Like if you have like a kid, 6 years old, 8 years old, like a child basically, and they end up getting some disease, like you get cancer or some tragic, weird, random, like rare disease, especially the rare ones. Like what the hell's that about? Like, how does that make sense? So like you have this new NPC slash player, I guess technically let's just call it NPC only. You have an NPC born into the simulation, and they can't be a player yet because like how can something like that happen to somebody that young? It doesn't make sense, right? It's so evil, it's so cruel. And if you're looking at it, again, keep in mind this is the non-religious view, non-God aspect of it. We're talking about strictly a simulation theory, right? This is all just fun, crazy philosophy. Putting all that religion, God stuff aside, if we're talking strictly from a simulation standpoint, if we live inside of a simulation, which is possible, and a lot of people actually believe that, well, then it is possible as well that everybody is technically born an NPC. You don't know you're an NPC. Obviously, you're just programming. So, because when a child gets sick and gets cancer, leukemia, whatever, or like you hear some crazy drunk driver who smashes into a car because the idiot's a young drunk who got off his private jet and got on the highway and was driving in the wrong direction and smashes into an SUV or a van and kills three, four children and their grandparents because he's a piece of shit drunk driver. What, like, how do those kids just suddenly die? You have like three, four children that just get killed, right? So like how does that make sense? That those children are the NPCs. They're not players yet technically. They don't even know what's happening because you can't have something that tragic happen to that child, right? They're not evolved enough in this game to be an actual player. They're just an NPC. Now, the effect of that affects the player, and that's what the tragic part really is. Like the child is not a player; it's just an NPC. But the adult, the mother, the father, who has to experience all that agony and pain and suffering, they're the player. This is like an event inside the matrix that has happened to that individual player because we're all just players. Now, that player was obviously an NPC before. They grew up, they evolved, and they became this player. Now, if that player is awake, that makes them a player. But if that person hasn't woken up yet, for whatever reason, and you have a lot of people, young and old, who have not woken up yet, and you know what I mean by that. Like, if you get it, you get it. Like, if you're awake, then you know what I mean. So, those people are just NPCs. And so that's how they deal with it. Like, as an NPC, they're programmed to deal with that loss in whatever way they can, or they do, or they don't even realize what's happened because, again, they're an NPC. But if they're a player, then that's the player. That's even more hardcore if you think about it, because that's the player experiencing all that anguish and torture. And then if that parent, maybe one of them decides to commit suicide because, they're so depressed after years of trying to deal with this and they just can't deal with this and they kill themselves. Like that's a player, no longer an NPC. That NPC has evolved, has become a player, and like they've looked at the simulation, at the life, and they actually get it now. They fully get it, and they're like, they need to exit. They can't participate in this simulation anymore. So they kill themselves. Now, I don't know if I see any of that similarities with that with the Matrix, but I don't know. Maybe you can somehow tie that in with Neo, and I guess in a way, yeah. I mean, when they wake up, they're kind of dying, and that's how they exit this Matrix. I'm not saying that's what we should be doing. You don't become a player and kill yourself. I mean, that is an option. I mean, I guess people do that. I mean, it's a personal choice, I guess. When an NPC evolves and becomes a player, that's when they decide all these more intricate, complex life decisions. And I guess people do kill them. I mean, look at Robin Williams, Anthony Bourdain, celebrities who like are loved and like have a lot of money and popularity, but they still kill themselves, right? That's why people always say money does not buy happiness, which is absolutely true. It doesn't buy happiness. Money buys comfort and it makes your life easier, but deep down it can't give you just happiness. Like that is that deeper, I guess you could almost say like NPC to player evolution. That's like how you become that player. So you can have all the money in the world. You can still be an NPC. Like I'm sure there are rich billionaires who are NPCs. Maybe people like Bill Gates. That's a tricky one. But somebody like, you got your standard idiots like George Bush. Like he's definitely an NPC, right? And then you got your Hillary Clintons and all those. They're like the evil NPC player versions. I mean, they can still be players. I mean, I'm not saying players are going to be good or bad inside the Matrix. Because, I mean, it's all fake. This is all just a simulation. Nothing is real. Those people aren't actually people. They're just programs within the simulation. That's the whole point. So some of these people, they evolve, they become a player, and then Robin Williams wakes up one day and they call it mental health, but it's just like he's done it all. He's evolved, he's a player, he's got to the end, and he just doesn't want to do it anymore, so he kills himself. And maybe that's the ultimate player sacrifice, or like the end game as a player. Like you're an NPC. The first half of your life growing up as an NPC is just learning and experiencing. And you eventually one day wake up. So once you wake up, that's when you become the player, like the actual player of the game now. So you're not just Super Mario running around in this video game anymore. That's when you evolve to that like new Super Mario movie, and they like, oh my god, that makes perfect sense too. Remember, in the movie, Super Mario's in that digital world, and he comes out into like the human world. That's the evolution. That's another symbol right there. That's just an NPC evolving into the human player. So that's a Super Mario, and so that's how he evolves. He becomes the real life, the real player, the real Mario. He's not just Mario, running around, jumping up and down, hitting blocks. He's like the real Mario. That's the evolution. You just evolve from NPC to real time player. So then you deal with life, you deal with the good and the bad, and you evolve. And then eventually you have to make these decisions, maybe like how you cope with that. That's another part of it too, right there. Just the coping, yeah, like the understanding the coping. So like I said, Anthony Bourdain, Robin Williams, countless other people I can't even think off the top of my head. There's so many people. Who was that guy? The musicians. There's been multiple musicians. Like that's weird stuff. Like what did they learn? What did they were they killed? Were they assassinated? Were they maybe that's the other thing. Like you obviously you can be killed off as a player or an NPC too, I'm sure. The simulation does that all the time. But if you choose to exit yourself, which we like to call unaliving yourself or whatever, suicide, that could be the simulation's it's just like your own way of exiting the simulation and other people choose to stay. I don't know. That's crazy. It's weird. But yeah, so that's how it works. You're an NPC or a player. And when you have these, that's the thing. It's all just none of it is real. It's just a simulation. It's all fake. So that's the other thing. There's not even like good and evil. Like you have, I wonder how that works with like the agencies. You've got those 3-letter agencies and what they do and don't do. I mean, like, obviously they're just like the Matrix. You had Agent Smith. That's like a representation of the CIA, FBI, whatever. But it's not that they're good or bad. It's not like that's the thing. It's just part of the system. How can you even have anything that's good or bad when it's just all programming? Yes, we represent them as good or bad, good versus evil, but I mean, I'm sure like when you have something like the CIA and the NSA, FBI, they're just again programs, they're entities, they're just doing their job inside of the simulation. And I guess that's more closely connected to the simulation. It's not like it is the simulation or like the bad players of the. I mean, you just have to have balance, I guess, right? You always have to have balance within anything, any physical structure, anything that lives, anything that falls within these universal like laws, all gravity and this and space and time. You have to have like a certain balance, right? You always have like this good versus evil. You always have like the plus, the minus, the right, the left, the up, the out, the down. You always have to have like this certain weird balance. The male, the female. It always comes down to twos. It's all right. It's always when you break everything down, it's always just a yes or a no, an up or a down, a left or a right. That's literally what it is. And that's why this whole argument with the genders thing too. How many genders are there? Well, the entire universe, literally the entire universe, is just a 1 or a 0. That's computer programming, or the very fundamental basics of computer programming. You have a 1 or a 0. You have on or off. You have left or right. There aren't 50 different variations of yes or no. It's just either a yes or a no. When you look at the bare basic simplicities of the universe, when you look at the simulation, when you look at the matrix, when you look at Neo inside of the matrix, you're either on or you're off. You're either in or you're out. There is no 50 different things. That's why people have such a hard issue with this transition of transgenderism. It's like this weird, I'm not even going to touch it with a 60-foot pole, but I'm just saying like the whole issue with trans and stuff, that's why it's so complex, because this entire simulation, our fundamental physical beings, our basis for our existence, like the actual existence of the simulation is ones and zeros, right? Because remember, nothing is real. We are all just programs inside of a simulation. We are either NPCs or players, but it's all still fake. It's all just one giant simulation. We live inside a program. And you cannot have variations in this program. You cannot have 50,000 yes or no's. You know what I mean? You can't have everything just comes down to ones and zeros. That's what I'm trying to say. It's the simplicity, the basic breakdown. So you can't have 50,000 genders. You can have either male or female. You can either have up or down. You can either have on or off when you look at it at a physics point of view. That's why all these scientists, I guess, are all pissed off about the whole trans movement. The more religious you are, the more scientific and biological based you are, maybe, the more you have trouble accepting that whole trans, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know. But anyways, yeah, so that's what you are. You're either an NPC or you're a player. And the higher you get, the closer you become to a player. Or at least you peek through that door like the exit of the NPC, the evolution from the NPC to the player, which is maybe why so many people who do like psychedelics end up going from NPC to player. I guess that's like one window. Maybe that's how you can evolve from the NPC into the player. And so you have these equilibrium balances between just people who are awake and people who are not awake. And that's the thing. It's not about good or evil. It's not like you talk about religion too. If you think about it, people who are religious and they believe in God, for example, if you believe in God and you believe that God created all of this stuff and you're living inside of God's creation, what you don't realize is that that's actually the exact same thing. You see, God and the matrix and the simulation, they're the same thing. It's just one thing. You call it God, somebody else calls it simulation. There's no such thing as like you can't. That's what I'm saying. It's the yes or no, the up or down, whatever. There is no millions of different variations. Just like in religion, how ridiculous it is that there's hundreds of different religions. My religion is correct, yours is not correct. Oh, you're wrong, I'm right. Like, how does that even make sense, right? Look at it from a common sense point of view. And I've talked about common sense before. So like, oh my god, like just common sense, right? Like, does that even make sense to you? No, it doesn't. So, like, the simulation is God. It's the same thing. God created the world and the laws and the stuff, and you have like it's just as an individual, whether you're an NPC or a player, like you being religious and believing God is just your way of accepting the simulation for you. You're still Neo inside the Matrix. It's the exact same thing. That's what's so funny and so silly about religion. You have people fighting over dumb religious stuff, all these East versus West, and the Muslims and the extremists and the Christians and all that crap. It doesn't matter what you are. It's all the same. That's why you don't get it. So all those people who are religious and you're fighting each other, guess what? You're an NPC. You're not awake yet. There's still religious people who are players. There are those people who are religious, whether you're a Muslim or a Catholic. You can still be religious and be awake, technically, by this theoretical circumstances that I've come up with, this whatever you want to call it, this philosophy of mine inside this simulation philosophy. If you are religious, there's two versions of you. Okay, there's the awake version and there's the non-awake version. So if you are an extremist, whether you are Christian or Muslim or Jewish or whatever, it doesn't matter the religion. But if you actually think you're better than others and you want to kill people, like literally kill them over a religion, like those Muslim extremists, then they're NPCs. They're not awake. They're not players. No matter how smart they are, no matter how intelligent they could be, even on an IQ test, maybe they have an IQ of 200. I don't know what IQ even means in the scope of a simulation, right? So you could be super smart. Steve Jobs was considered super smart. Zuckerberg is considered super smart. Elon Musk is considered super smart. It doesn't mean they're not NPCs. And obviously, they wouldn't even know whether they are an NPC or not, but that's just their programming. So they could be an NPC. And an extremist who wants to murder people definitely has to be an NPC. They're not awake. They haven't evolved yet. They haven't transitioned from NPC to player. So you're just an NPC, which is basically just like an unevolved human being or whatever. Like you haven't woken up to the truth yet. So you're just an NPC. That's all it is. And so yeah, again, it's not good versus bad. You have these three-letter agencies. Are they NPCs? Probably. Maybe that's just part of the government's. I mean, it's not even a government. Again, it's just a simulation. It's a part of the simulation. The government, countries, flags, culture, these are all just parts of a video game. It's just a game. A simulation is nothing but a giant virtual game. So that's what it is. So the CIA and the FBI, it's not that they're good or bad. They're just entities inside of the simulation. And maybe they work closer in with the simulation to control certain things or guide the simulation in a specific direction. And again, it's not good or bad. It's just the simulation is taking its form, it's taking its shape, it's becoming whatever it is. It's a simulation. You can't decide what a simulation becomes. And we are just the players inside. And obviously, that's the thing. It's funny because we do, in a sense, control the simulation. People, all these NPCs and players, and especially players, as they evolve, they become the algorithm. People are the algorithm. So when you're on Instagram and you have your own algorithm and the simulation is showing you the things you want to see, as human beings, as players, we are the simulation, aka the universes. We are the universe's algorithm, right? So we are putting out our algorithm into the universe, and we are shaping the universe, this simulation, into what it is and what we want it to be. And I've talked about that in the past too, but it makes perfect sense, right? If you want this world to end by natural disaster, if enough of us players go in that direction and we believe that, like global warming and asteroids headed towards Earth, if we collectively believe that's going to 100% happen, that is how it will happen. That's how the simulation will end. We will all die in some catastrophic global event that is natural. Now, if we're warmongers, war lovers, and those people who love war, and maybe that's the way they want to exit, whether they're NPCs or players, they keep fighting and killing. So they want a big war to happen. So for those people, if enough of those players put that algorithm out into the simulation, into this universe, then we're going to end up going out in a big bang called World War III or whatever. And it's just everyone's going to throw their nukes around and we're all going to blow each other up. And that's how we die as a simulation, as a people, as a player. That's how we exit this game. And that could work for anything. Well, you believe in aliens. And that's why the more crazy and extreme the belief or the direction we go, the more insane it could happen. Like that's the if enough people believe the Earth is flat, it'll be flat. If enough people believe aliens are going to come to this planet and destroy us, then that's what will happen. If enough people believe that the aliens are going to come and save us, that's what will happen. They will come and remove us from this planet. Maybe that's what I've talked about that before, or the three-eye atlas, and who knows what else, asteroids, comets. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe the aliens are coming to take a bunch of us players off this planet and relocate us to another planet, or advance to the next level, right? That's exactly what Neo did. He just advanced from the Matrix. Within the Matrix, he exited the Matrix, so he went to the next level, the afterlife, so to say. So maybe that is that what it is? Is the Matrix life and exiting the Matrix through Morpheus and the help of Morpheus and his team? That was him exiting life and evolving and passing into the afterlife. Because how did he have those magical powers in the afterlife too, right? That was never really properly explained, and that was creepy because he was inside the Matrix, he could control things, he exits the Matrix, and then he still ends up stopping those sentinel beings, those robotic structures with the power of his mind in his hand. And that still never made sense to me. But there you go. That makes sense now. Why? Because it's just a simulation within a simulation within a simulation. You are a player inside the simulation. You evolve, and when you pass on, when you die in this simulation and you get born again into the next simulation, you are an NPC again. So every transition into this next matrix, into this next existence, you are still the same program. It's just that you are a player who dies and becomes an NPC, evolves in that other level, that other world, that other existence, that other dimension, whatever you want to call it, and then you die. Wait, what? Yeah, hold on. You die, you die, and you evolve to the next one, but you're born as an NPC. So you're an NPC. You evolve, become a player. Then, as a player, you die, and then you get reborn as an NPC again. That's what it is, and that's the story I'm sticking to. And you know who told me all this? Your mom.